Evening, friends. It's now night time almost. We have been in this series for last 4 hours, right? Yeah. So both of us are really getting down on our energy levels. Anyway, so this is going to be more on prescriptions on ischemia. Okay, so prescriptions for ischemic heart disease and for some other conditions which relates to ischemia. We are talking of drugs names which are usually prescribed. So this is more of prescription based session. We have seen the drugs. So I hope if you are watching this for the first time, better to watch my few other sessions, the sessions which you have previously uploaded on drugs for ischemia, because then this session makes much more sense. Anyway, it's up to you. So I thank Dr. Suresh to be on this session and be with me for long hours now, shooting across for drugs for ischemic heart disease. The first prescription that we are going to see is on stable angina. Now, stable angina is whenever the episode comes about, the patient has to take a glycerin trinitrate tablet. He can also go for glycerin trinitrate sprays, whatever it might be. He can take a maximum of 3 tablets at an interval of 2 to 3 minutes. And if it's not relieved, then he needs to call up for any help. If he exceeds those tablets of nitrates, then there is no additional benefit actually. So you need to stop at 3 tablets and need not exceed more on that. Some other therapies would be also needed for this patient so that you can prevent further attacks. For example, he might require atenolol, which is a beta blocker. But we have seen about these drugs in my earlier sessions, so you can watch those agents. If there is any issues with use of atenolol, for example, if the patient has diabetes, asthma, heart blocks or depression, patient might be put on calcium channel blockers, and the best would be diltiazem. But again, you need to look at the ejection fraction of the patient. If it's too low, you cannot be using that. You cannot use it along with beta blocker like atenolol. Yeah. And if there's some nodal dysfunction also, you need to be aware about using calcium channel blockers as well as beta blockers to an extent, I should say. Long-acting nitrates can also be used to prevent further attacks. You can also use nitroglycerin patch, transdermal patch, but remember that you require to give a drug-free interval at least 7 to 8 hours each day, so that there is no tolerance develops to action of nitrates. Aspirin, of course, is an antiplatelet agent, has to be used. Of course, low dose aspirin. If there's any problems with use of aspirin, hypersensitivity, previous history of peptic ulcer, other antiplatelet agents like clopidogrel can be used. A combination of these 2 agents can also be used to extent in a few patients.
With angioplasty or
stent therapies, you can use that. So this was about stable angina. I leave it to Dr. Suresh to discuss prescriptions for unstable angina. Dr. Suresh.
Thank you. Unstable angina, it's a more serious condition where we need to add on some more drugs. Usually when you think of this diagnosis of unstable angina, the patient should be given first chewable aspirin tablet, 325 milligram as a stat, and it should be chewed, crushed and swallowed for rapid effect. And then that is the first initial dose, then followed by we should give 75 milligram or 150 milligram daily after that throughout the life for those who are diagnosed with unstable angina. Some people they also be added with, I mean not some, but all the patients should be also added along with aspirin. We should give this clopidogrel 300 milligram stat followed by 75 milligram daily. That is the first step we should do. Then the next treatment would be, of course, GTN, glycerin trinitrate tablet, orally, sublingually, oral GTN given sublingually to a maximum of 3 tablets as told by Dr. Ameya. And then the next would be subcutaneous low molecular weight heparin, like enoxaparin or Clexane, trade name as it goes. This is given as 1 milligram per kg subcutaneous body as a BD dose, or fraxiparin, nabroparin, which is given as 0.1 ml per 10 kg subcutaneous BD. So these two drugs, and then we should not forget giving them beta blockers, cardioselective beta blockers such as metoprolol, 50 milligram every 12 hours, and titrated quickly to achieve the optimum dose. The optimum dose can be decided by the target heart rate of around 55 to 60 per minute. We should not increase the dose so that the patient's heart rate falls below 50. So that's a usual main point we need to consider. And usually we can titrate up to 100 milligram BD of metoprolol per day. So this is about
unstable angina. Okay. The next, I will let Dr. Suresh to talk about prescription for myocardial infarction.
Myocardial infarction is even more worse than emergency condition. When you talk about a patient who comes with acute coronary syndrome, it's even more serious condition. And the treatment is as follows. First, of course, as we told before,
aspirin, remains the
same pattern. Along with that, aspirin chewable, clopidogrel tablet with the same dosage as I told you before. GTN sublingual, and in addition to that, because the myocardial infarction pain will be too high, the pain scale will be at around 10 out of 10. So these patients will get relief only by giving morphine, opioid analgesics. Morphine in the dosage of 2 to 6 milligram IV, slow IV, stat as a stat. But be cautious about when you give this morphine. The patient will get severe vomiting. So to prevent this, you need to give antiemetic drug like metoclopramide, or we can also give diamorphine. So which will have less emetic effect. It's better to sedate the patient with small dose of diazepam or lorazepam.
That will decrease the sympathetic activity.
That will also decrease the sympathetic activity.
The anxiety
Anxiety, morphine, of course, it will take care of anxiety also, along with pain. But in the longer run, it's better to sedate the patient with a small dose of benzodiazepine. Then the main core of treatment is thrombolytic therapy. So we need to consider giving this streptokinase IV, 1.5 million units, 100 ml of saline infused over 60 minutes. If there is no possibility of percutaneous coronary intervention due to various reasons, if the patient is admitted in a hospital, peripheral hospital, where there is a primary care or secondary care, there is no cath lab facility, then this is followed by, as a prophylaxis for deep vein thrombosis, we should give subcutaneous low molecular weight heparin, like enoxaparin, clexane, or fraxiparin, in the dosage as mentioned before. Then don't forget to give beta blocker in all the patients who have ischemic heart disease, metoprolol 50 milligram every 12 hours and titrated quickly to achieve a target heart rate of 55 to 60 per minute. And also you need to add on with these drugs. We should also add AC inhibitors like ramipril in the dosage of 5 to 10 milligrams per day if there is concordant or coexisting LV dysfunction or LV failure or LV hypertrophy, which is proven by echocardiography or ECG wise. So these are
the drugs for MI, myocardial infarction, acute condition. Next, Dr. Suresh will discuss about, in short, about pulmonary embolism.
Pulmonary embolism is another medical emergency where more or less similar to myocardial infarction, which needs intensive care monitoring. So here, first and foremost is oxygen support. Of course, oxygen support is also given for the previous two conditions, like unstable,
and
MI.
you need to admit the
You need
patient.
to admit the patient, and then
That of course goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the usual ABC and
ABC.
the oxygen support, all those things should be given. But we are more concerned with the pharmacotherapy in this session. So we are just talking more on this. Here, IV fluids along with because for pulmonary embolism, massive pulmonary embolism, they will have severe hypotension. So it's better to give IV fluids, strong and generous IV fluids. And the main core of treatment is, of course, anticoagulants. In non-pregnant patients, it is better to give intravenous unfractionated heparin. It is preferred to subcutaneous low molecular weight heparin because it is likely to achieve therapeutic levels more rapidly, and it can be adjusted more readily if there is thrombolytic therapy to be considered necessary. That is one thing. And the dosage for heparin in non-pregnant patients is 80 units per kg intravenous bolus initially, followed by 18 units per kg per hour, and dosage should be adjusted according to the level of APTT. In pregnant patients, it is better to give enoxaparin 1 milligram per kg per dose subcutaneously every 12 hours. However, in pregnant women, low molecular weight heparin is recommended for the treatment of pulmonary embolism instead of unfractionated heparin, because for easy, less bleeding complications and to achieve a better outcome. And in pregnant women with acute pulmonary embolism, it is suggested that anticoagulants should be continued for at least 6 weeks postpartum, because pregnancy is a hypercoagulable state, and peripartum period, even the postpartum period and the intrapartum period, these 3 periods are the most hypercoagulable period, and so there is more chance of hypercoagulability, and pulmonary embolism can recur during this period. So it is better to continue for 6 weeks of postpartum this low molecular weight heparin. Yes.
Yeah. So that was about pulmonary embolism, another emergency as far as ischemia and circulatory system is concerned. I will again Dr. Suresh, I will let him to talk on management of chronic myocardial infarction. So drugs basically which are given so that any further attacks are not occurring. So prescription for management of chronic myocardial infarction. Dr. Suresh?
Yes. It's basically simple. When we treat the acute myocardial ischemia with the drugs mentioned before, the patient is about to be discharged, so on the day of discharge we need to add on, we need to prescribe these drugs. First one is, of course, tablet GTM, glycerol trinitrate, 0.5 milligram sublingual, SOS whenever required. And then tablet aspirin 150 milligram, preferably in the afternoon, in the daytime. So, or in the morning usually, morning or afternoon, whichever the patient prefers. Then tablet clopidogrel 75 milligram once daily, tablet metoprolol 50 milligram BD, and the dosage can still be titrated up to 100 milligram as far as the heart rate is 155 to 60 per minute. And then tablet ACNIT or tablet enalapril or ramipril can be given 5 milligram BD, and still the dosage also can be titrated according to achieve the therapeutic benefit. And then the final tablet which should be added is the statins, either simvastatin or lovastatin, 40 milligram
at night time. Yeah.
So this is the prescription.
This is the typical prescription for chronic management of myocardial infarction. Now that was all about drugs for ischemia, ischemic heart disease and so on, but there is another list which we just need to discuss it very quickly with you, is a prescription for vasospastic angina. So this is slightly variant, is spasm of the coronaries, there is no thrombosis, there is no embolus down there, but just a spasm. And here the only drugs which can help are the CCBs, especially the cardioselective ones like verapamil, which needs to be given. So keep that in mind. because slightly different from the ones which we have seen till now. You can also be using nitrates to extent in this for management of this condition. Otherwise, the other drugs, supportive management remains the same as for antiplatelet drugs. Hypolipidem drugs are concerned, they will remain the same, but you need to use cardioselective blocker, calcium channel blocker like verapamil in this condition. So that was a quick take. Now last on the list is drug therapies for peripheral vascular disease. I'll just go through these drugs, won't go into depth of it. For peripheral vascular disease, critical limb ischemia, actually it's a debilitating condition. Eventually the patient will require amputation at some time or the other. The prognosis is not very good in this condition. A few drugs can help the patient to overcome the symptoms associated with PVD. One of the main important drugs in this is pentoxifylline, which is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor and also reduces blood viscosity. It gives kind of flexibility for the RBCs to flow across the obstruction which is occurring in the peripheral arteries. It's given as 400 mg tablet, either BD or TDS, 3 times a day depending upon the condition of the individual. A few other drugs can also be used in this condition. The one which is used is xanthinol, which is a xanthin derivative, which is a vasodilatory drug but with limited efficacy. We have smooth muscle relaxants like cyclodinate, which is a papaverine derivative, which again is a smooth muscle relaxant drug, a vasodilatory drug, which can help. Calcium channel blockers, especially the vasoselective ones, can also be used because they cause vasodilatation of the periphery. Alpha blockers like trazosine can also be used, but again all these drugs, remember, have limited efficacy as far as peripheral vascular disease is concerned. You need to also remember that when you use these drugs, there can be a steal phenomena. It causes vasodilatation, all these drugs, but actually the area which is less perfused may not get any blood supply. The blood might get diverted to areas where there is no obstruction. So kind of a steal phenomena which can worsen in fact the PVD. So you need to remember about that. A few other drugs like antiplatelet agents, aspirin, clopidogrel, vitamin E, which is a good antioxidant, and a few herbal derivatives but used extensively in allopathy like ginkgo biloba and so on, can also be used. But remember, all these drugs are of limited efficacy. So really need to look at this in a separate way, in a different angle, so that you get some insight into peripheral vascular diseases, again provoked by a lot of smoking and so on. So that becomes a primary concern as far as PVD is concerned. Dr. Suresh, you want to add on to something?
Nothing much. I think we have discussed it.
Yeah,
extensively.
We have pharmacotherapy of ischemia. I hope you like all these 3 sessions. I think extensive knowledge distribution as far as drugs for ischemia are concerned. Anyway, stay tuned to channel. Do keep watching. The next in the series is going to be pharmacotherapy on cardiac failure, which is going to be much more exciting. Anyway, do keep watching. I thank Dr. Suresh again for being with me for all these sessions. Stay tuned. Do subscribe to channel. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Suresh.
Thank you.
Bye.